Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the dark side of the year. And normally I like the dark, but this time change is kicking my butt. So today I have straight coffee, and if I could get some espresso, I would totally get some right now, because I am absolutely beat. But at least it's pretty. I mean, it's sunny. I've had to keep the heater on during the night because it gets cold, but during the day it warms up, tolerably nicely. So I've got one of the doors cracked, and hopefully the construction noise doesn't come across too badly. I'd normally be filming this in the spare bedroom, but I've got my grandparents coming over to visit this weekend, and so currently it is fully arranged for them, which is fine. I like having them over, so I thought I'd just shoot this early enough in the day, so hopefully I can get it edited and out Friday, because, well, that's when they come to visit, and I'm going to be way too busy this Friday. I'm making gumbo and rolls, and really looking forward to gumbo. I haven't had gumbo in a hot minute. And much if y'all are ever interested in recipes, I will totally show you some, but anyway, today is also about family. This is How to Sell a Haunted House by Grady, Hendrix. And much like my own family, it is full of skeletons and drama and family history that I was not prepared for. Like, I actually really enjoyed this book. This is my first foray into adult horror novels in ages. The last time I think I read one, I was way too young to be reading horror, or at least that level of horror. And then going back and looking, I'm like, this might explain some issues. But anyway, Grady Hendrix, this is my first novel I've read from him, and oh my gosh, he is good. He totally deserves the award. I have his other book, I have it somewhere. It's the vampire one. And I plan on reading that here soon and giving y'all a review for it. So I set out expecting this to be just a haunted house book. I read on the back, I didn't read a lot about it. I knew there's supposed to be some comedy here. I didn't really find the comedy, but I enjoyed the level of, this was not so scary that you can't read it at night. And it was maybe lighthearted enough, or, it didn't take itself so seriously that it ruined itself. I particularly just loved how Hendrix made you care for these characters. And, I mean, every time you thought you had the mood of the book set down, he'd go off and change it all over again in just like this most perfect way. And I loved it. I liked every bit of it, and it wasn't too scary for me, but it was also just like just a perfect level of everything throughout the book. I cried. Like, I did not set out when I was reading this book to feel this level of emotion. And it's like, I'm glad I wasn't prepared, but at the same time, like, oh my gosh. So I'll give you a quick rundown. I'm not going to explain the full plot or all the little twists, but safe to say, it has just about a little bit of everything here. So the basic premise is there's this lady named Louise. She's estranged from her parents in a lot of the ways that, nothing terrible happened. It's just her younger brother was the golden child. He could do no wrong. And the mom was kind of crazy. I mean, not in a bad way, but she's an actress who, when the family was on poor time, got hired out to do Christian puppet shows. Which, I'm sorry, I did not know this book was about puppets. So when the first time she entered, the parents ended up dying. Louise had to fly back out from San Francisco to Georgia to help just be there for the funeral and help clean up the house and whatnot. And you walk in and the first thing you see is walls of dolls. Dolls and puppets and everything. And you're just sitting here going, and at that moment I'm like, oh no, I was expecting slamming doors and, poltergeists. I was not here for dolls. I literally put the book down and looked at my husband and went, dolls, and he's like, possessed dolls. I'm like, I don't know yet, and by the way, it was possessed dolls. But anyway, it was so much more than that. But she goes, she cleans up the house a little bit. She's estranged from her brother because he was always the golden child, but also the ne'er-do-well. And she'd come to the conclusion because her dad had basically sat down, because the dad was the level-headed one around here that went, listen, your brother is a ne'er-do-well. I'm going to put you in charge of all the money when I die because someone has to keep an eye on him. And at least if you put it in a trust fund and give it to him slowly, he won't burn it all up in one spot. Because it's not just like, oh, he was a failure to the family. No, this was the brother was the type of guy to invest in like really shady, I think it's like MLM or snake oil salesman companies, Christmas tree farm down in Mexico, and then like a snake world or something like that. I mean, the dude ain't there. Dude ain't right. But anyway, so she gets down there, and by the way, the parents actually died like a solid day and a half before she got the phone call, but the brother just couldn't get up the gumption to actually call her. And so, of course, she's pissed. She's got a little 5-year-old daughter who, like, she doesn't want to leave with her ex-boyfriend. But at the same time, it's like, well, crap, you don't want to bring the 5-year-old to a funeral, which, I mean, heaven knows, I got drugged to plenty of them, but that's besides the point. Anyway, she gets there, the family all gets together. You realize, and Hendrix does a great job of portraying a very just warm southern family without it turning into, just a whole bunch of stereotypes. And I really liked all her family. They weren't trashy, they weren't stereotypical, but they were all their own person. I'll put it that way. And so the brother's hounding the brother-in-law or the cousin-in-law or something like that, who's the family lawyer, to hurry up and read the will. And the family lawyer's like, dude, we ain't even got him in the ground good yet. Just chill. I'll send it to you in the mail. But he finally nags and nags until the guy's like, okay, fine, whatever, and gathers Luis to the room and all that. And she's fundamentally said, she says out loud that I have decided, regardless of what the will says, that I will 50-50 split it with my brother. None of the trust. He's a grown man. He's in his 30s. And I will just, we'll do it nice and fair. Because, he had this little redemption arc where at first you're like, oh man, he's the ne'er-do-well. And then he actually arranged this really nice. It was a weird funeral because the mom, not only was she into the Christian puppet, but she was like really into all the puppety things. And so the entire funeral was done by puppets. And I guess that's where the comedy aspects come in, because at a certain point I had it wrote down, it's like, this whole thing feels like a fever dream. I just remember looking in the mirror and just checking my temperature going, am I actually reading this? And it's like, I'm sorry, when you have a marionette, life-size marionette ostrich doing a eulogy, you start questioning stuff. But anyway, apparently that was completely in tone with who the mother was, and we're just, I guess, going to ignore the fact that the dad was a professor at one of the local colleges and was a well-respected finance and economic professor. We'll just ignore that. He got the freaking puppet funeral with the mom. But anyway, Luis is like, I don't care, even if it leaves it all to me, like I know it will, because that's literally what was agreed to. She's like, I'll just split it in half and you're free to do whatever you want. And the lawyer's like, well, here's the problem. Then the parents died in a car crash. So if the mother died first, all the funds would have gone to the father, and according to the father's will, all the money would go to Luis. But in the event that the father dies first, all of his money would have gone, and all the assets would have gone to the mother. And according to the mother's will, everything but the artwork goes to the son. And technically, the mom died like 5 minutes after the dad. Just by a sheer her heart quit beating technicality. And instead of the brother taking it gracefully, he does the whole football dance in your face. You're not getting a red cent of this, da 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 da. And Luis is like, I was going to be fair, and you are going to be a dick. And at this point in the book, he has done such a good job at characterization and getting you in the headspace. And I won't lie, it's probably due to just I'm familiar with this kind of relationship. It's like, I was so mad for her. I was just like, this sucks. I hope the puppet gets him. Oh, sorry. Anyway. So, and at this point, I would have been like, okay, fine, screw it. Take the money. I have a tolerably successful job anyway. I would have just flown back to San Francisco that night and went to go be with my daughter because, okay, screw it if he wants to be that way. But that's just me. And Louise, in her head, there's a reoccurring theme of motherhood. Not in a hippy-dippy kind of a way, but she wants to be better than her mom. She wants to ensure that her child has every chance of being her own person that she possibly can. And most of the decisions in this book, while there's a layer of pettiness and sibling rivalry there, the fundamental part, or at least the excuse she tells herself, is she is doing it to make sure her daughter has the best chance that she can possibly get. So instead of getting on the plane and going home and saying, screw it, burn the art pieces, I don't care, she goes and decides, I am going to get him to give me at least a percentage, even if I have to slowly get all the art from the house and just make myself a nuisance. Because if I can just get a little bit of money, I'll be able to send Poppy, which is the daughter, to a good school, and her future will be a little more secure, and it will be okay. The problem is that house brings out the worst in people, and it really is this nice story, and it just this, I'm not sure if the word is allegory, but it's a very nice way of describing what it's like when you return to your parents' home, especially if the foundation's cracked. Because the house does just bring out the worst. Louise goes from being this pretty level-headed woman who, while she struggles, she's not perfect, she is fundamentally trying to do better than her parents. And I can applaud that. She really is trying. But when she gets home around family, around the house, it just drags her down to the lowest point. Like she gets in a hit and spit and fight with her brother in the front lawn over the will. She just breaks down to her lowest point, and Mark, I'm sorry, that's the brother's name, is Mark. I don't think he ever gets off of his lowest point until, about midway through. The first 60 to 80 pages, I think, are just characterization. And at first I'm like, oh my gosh, get to the point. I was like, actually, this did a really good job. And so while she's doing the clean out and everything, some of the bad stuff starts happening. And long story short, the brother is convinced that, the parents' ghosts still live there. And one of the cousins, who's a realtor, convinced him that she'll sell the house only if he gives 50% of the proceeds to police. Of which he argues about it being 25%, and they just kind of steamroll him on it. But anyway, the realtor goes, yeah, this place is haunted. You got to get rid of the ghosts before I can sell it, because it's just business, baby. No one wants to buy a haunted house. And so they set about trying to, he doesn't want to get rid of the spirits. He wants to contact the parents and all that good stuff. And she's just like, I don't believe it's haunted, but whatever I can do to convince you to sell it. and then shit just goes downhill from there. And Mark, he does a really good character shift. You realize, and I'm not going to go into a lot of details, but you realize due to the family and their insistence that no bad thing ever happened in this family, and we will never talk about death and old Uncle Freddy and this, that, and the other, and all things that are extremely pertinent to the present day. They're like, we just won't talk about it. And so something happened when he was a kid. I'm trying to think of how to say it without spoiling it, but basically something highly traumatic and dang near deathly happened to him as a child. And when he remembered it as a teen, and don't worry, it is nothing weird. He almost drowns, or he does drown and gets pulled out. But anyway, when he goes to his mom as a teenager going, hey, I just had this sudden inflow of memories and all this happened. What in the world? The mom, instead of just sitting down and facing the problem, says, no, you didn't. You are absolutely imagining this thing that happened. And he knows she's lying. And that set off a big, long chain of, he is not a deliberate ne'er-do-well. Just the family will gaslight him and even Luis on literally anything negative. You know, it's like, hey, this puppet is evil. No, it's not, honey. Despite the fact that the mom knew the puppet was possessed, she went out of her way due to some various trauma attachments to just deny. And in the end, it got her killed. It got Mark severely and gruesomely I think the word's debilitated. He got his arm lopped off. You know, it's by the end of it, you know, there's multiple possessions. There's one gruesome, nearly bleed out experience. There's a lot of crazy shit that happens, but all of this could have been fixed if the women of the family would have just sat down and went, yes, this happened, and no, we're not going to keep the cursed puppet around, and yes, we're going to be open and honest and talk about this. All this could have been avoided with a good conversation. And that's something I enjoyed about this book, is every time you thought you had it figured, something happens. There's like this perfect point where you're like, oh, the story's over, but oh no, there's like 120 pages left in the story, and then it just like, surprise, and I'm not going to spoil it, but I mean, every time you think you have it figured out, you don't. And every time you think that the problem's been solved, it hasn't. And what I love is no one is stupid. There is no running through the woods and falling over your feet, scenario. There is no opening the door to a stranger or doing this or doing that. Everyone acts very logically, and then the family groups together, bands together, and deals with the problem. And I like it. I love the aunts. I love the grandma. I love the one crazy lady in a trailer house that helps out. It is, I mean, if you want colorful characters, you got it. And if you really want drama and horror and heart, I mean, this book's got it. I'm really, really interested in reading his other works. My library has several by him, and honestly, Christmas is coming up, so I might get some more. But it's like, I like it. I liked every bit of it. So if you're new to horror, this is a pretty safe one. I mean, there's a little bit of blood. Well, I mean, there's one very gruesome scene. The rest of it's atmospheric. The family has heart. No one is inherently a bad guy. They are all flawed characters, but if you take a step back, you understand why they are the way they are. And so, yeah, I'd say give it a shot. It's a good book. I'm taking notes on how he portrayed his characters and how everyone had It's hard to say exactly how he does it so well. I'm going to have to continue reading his other works to make it work. But Grady Hendrix has this perfect way of making those characters feel so real. And I was a little hesitant at first about a guy writing a girl, but he did great. I liked every bit of it, and I want to read more by him. So I think that's it for the day, and I hope y'all have a good weekend. And like, comment, and subscribe, and go see if you have any Grady Hendrix in your library. See you next week.